Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress. I started the year 2019 with lots of plans. The new series on this piece rules, I started that in January but was not able to keep it up because my day job got very busy suddenly. I've started making videos again and this is my upload schedule for the foreseeable future from May 2019. On Tuesdays at 8 PM Central European Time I will publish a video on this piece rules. And that is what this video is about. On Thursdays, any chess topic also published at the same time. And on Sundays, I will continue the Viewers Game series, where we are on episode number 87 already. So you can expect 3 videos a week from me, and I hope you will keep following the Chess to Impress YouTube channel. This video is the 4th installment of the King Rules series. I will show you an opening position where the king plays an important role and also an endgame position. It's quite unusual that the king plays a big role in the opening, but it happened in a correspondence game but played in the year 2000 between the players Bob and Ramini. Not famous players, but it's quite nice and instructive to see what happened in their game. White opened e4 and Ramini played the Aljochin defense with knight f6. e5, kicking a knight straight away, knight d5, d4, e6 and c4, kicking a knight again. All theory, but black did not follow theory from here on in. Knight e7 is a move, or knight b6 is a move, but black played bishop b4 check, and that deserves a question mark, maybe even 2. It's a very bad move. Black must have expected bishop d2 here to shield the check, or knight d2, which are both perfectly playable moves, but see what white came up with. He played king e2. The king rules. What is this move about? Playing the king up on move 5. Only beginners do that, right? Well, in this case it is the strongest move, and what this move does is that the knight is still hanging, and as we'll see, the bishop is also vulnerable on b4. In fact, white wins a piece by force here. So the knight is hanging, black has to do something about that. If you play the knight to e7, then there is a3, and we see that the bishop is vulnerable. The bishop has no way back, the knight is now in the way. So bishop a5 is the only move, and then the bishop gets trapped. b4, bishop b6, c5, and white will win a piece. This bishop will get lost. But we don't have to play the knight back to e7, we also can play the knight back to b6. But then we see the same thing. c5 first, strong move, cutting off the way back for the bishop once again. The knight is hanging, so knight d5 for example, and then the bishop gets caught again. Bishop a5, b4, and that bishop is lost. Black resigned after king e2. It doesn't happen very often that correspondence games are finished after 5 moves. King e1 to e2, very surprising, winning a piece and a game for white. The king being strong in the endgame is more common, and that's what this second example is about. This is a game played on the 22nd of January 2004. White was the American Grandmaster Alexander Shabalov, and black was the Israeli Grandmaster Boris Gelfand, who nearly became world champion in 2012 when he lost in a tiebreak to Viswanathan Anand after having led in the match. At the time this game was played, white had a rating of 26-23 and black 27-09. Boris Gelfand, one of the elite grandmasters of our era. Let's look at the position. If we do a body count, we see that white has an extra exchange, but black has compensation with his strong central pawn duo, and also the white king is cut off on the a file, and there are some mating motifs in the position. Black has just played e4, e3, advancing that pass pawn and hitting the rook on f2. White played rook f takes f7 check, and now we see what the king can do. This king will move from e7 in about 10 moves to the d2 square. Let's see how the game unfolded. King d6 was black's 38th move, and rook d7 check. White has to find a way to control the black e-pawn. That is black's trump card here. King c6, rook c7 check. There goes the king. It advances. King d5. Rook cd7 check, king e4, and rook d e7. King f3, the king keeps marching, rook takes e6 to keep that pawn under control. If you now play e2, then there is rook h e7, and both rooks are controlling the e-pawn, and this position is about equal. So instead of advancing the e-pawn, Gelfand played king e2. Rook d7 and king d2. The king is going to help checkmate white's king. If you now take on d4 with check, then there is king takes c2, and white has no defense against either rook b3 checkmate or rook a1 checkmate. So taking on d4 does not work in this position. And apart from the checkmate threats against white's king, this pawn now also seems unstoppable. What can white do? Shabalov decided to take on e3, take that pawn off the board. You cannot take back with the d pawn because that pawn is pinned. King takes c2 that we saw in the previous variation is not as strong here because then white has rook takes c3 check, d takes c3 and king a4, and this is a very difficult position. White has 2 extra pawns, but this c-pawn is very strong. It will probably end in a draw with perfect play from both sides. So taking on c2 is not that good. So Gelfand just took the rook, a full rook. He's now a piece up. But white has 3 pawns compensation, and they are passed pawns. These 3 pawns are passed pawns. But those pawns are powerless. White played rook f7, knight d5, and now he played b5. Gelfand returned to d2 with his king, and white resigned. Shabalov resigned here as he is getting mated, or the d-pawn will walk through to queen. Wonderful king march from the 7th rank to the 2nd rank, winning the game for black. Let's look at a few variations. Why is this completely over? Why did Shabalov resign? Let's see what happens if white runs for it with his pawn. Then king takes c2, and there is a checkmate threat with rook a1. The knight takes the b4 square away, and if you play, for example, king a2 against that checkmate threat, then there is knight c3 check, king a3, and this is a lovely checkmate picture. The knight taking the a4 and a2 squares away. White can try rook f2 check to deal with the checkmate threats, then king c3, and for example then h6. Well, then there is knight b4, h7, you're almost there, but rook a1 check leads to checkmate. Rook a2 is the only legal move, and this is mate. Instead of h6, you can also try to play king a2 again. Then we see rook takes b5, h6, d3, h7, rook b8, controlling the h-pawn. I'm just giving one line to show you that black wins in all variations. Rook h2, d2, and yes, white can queen, but that queen gets chopped off the board straight away. Rook takes, and now black gets a queen and wins. Just showing you a sample line. Let's look at one more option after king d2, the final move of the game. White can also play rook f2 check straight away, then king c3, and you can try to keep giving checks. Rook f3 check, king takes c2, rook f2 check, king c3, rook f3 check, but then the d-pawn comes in operation now that the c2 pawn is gone. There still is a checkmate threat. You can't run with your h-pawn because this is checkmate. And if you play king a2 instead, then rook b2 check. If you go to a1, then there is knight b4, and there's nothing reasonable against knight c2 checkmate. Nice mate. And if you go to a3, then there is knight b4 and a mate with rook a2, which we already have seen. Some nice checkmate patterns with rook, knight, and king that I wanted to show you. And after having seen these variations, Shabalov decided to resign after the 47th move, king d2. Wonderful king march from Boris Gelfand. The king rules. Hope you enjoyed this video, and you can watch the earlier installments of the This Piece Rules series in the playlist. I put the link to the playlist in the description box of this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel. Please leave a comment, I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you like this video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.